episode of Monitor Keeping Podcast. This is Alan Stevens here with Kai there coming in. We also have a guest for you today. But before we get started into that, I just again want to say thank you to the Morelia Python Radio Network for allowing us to be under the umbrella. Please go onto their website, moreliapythonradio.com. Check them out. Check out their different podcasts they have available, covering different topics and species, all reptile related. And go ahead and check out their Patreon as well. They have a $5 and I believe a $10 different Patreons available to you, which all goes into helping produce more content, get information into good people's hands, give you something to listen to on your rides to work or whatever you're doing. So anyways, other than that, our guest today, Jacob, how you doing?
Pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How's it going, man? This is, I guess, the first time I think I've spoken to you. I think you've recently followed me on Instagram, right? Jake, the snake guy, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's correct. Jake from Snake Farm.
Oh, you can't miss that. That is like the best little title there. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't take credit for that one. That was a coworker of mine ended up coming up with that.
I was like, all right, that's hard to forget. Nice. Well, I mean, we're glad to have you on. Try to keep this as much monitor related as possible. But I mean, I guess just an introduction, a little quick introduction on, you yourself is great to start. Just like maybe start with what you kept or how you got into varanids and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been fascinated by reptiles as long as I can remember. I could spell herpetologist when I was 4 years old. It's just been a lifelong dream to just work with these animals. Something I stuck with, went to University of Maine for a couple of years to study it, ended up ultimately leaving and found my way to New England Reptile Distributors, which is about 10 minutes from my house, conveniently. And through there is really where my love for varanids kind of took off. I'd always had an appreciation for monitor species, but obviously Kevin's knowledge and the work that he does specifically with Varanus salvator really, really hooked me on them. And that love has just kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, he's a mad scientist. That
guy. That's an understatement.
Yeah, I literally sit in my little tiny lab and I'm just wishing that like I can. I mean, not to be like him, but more so of just get an idea of what his brain goes through. Just thinking wise and I don't really get a major glimpse of it, obviously because I haven't been there, but the quick videos are more dedicated to the animals, not so much the enclosures. And man, I'd love to just pick your brain on that topic, just some of the stuff alone, without getting too invasive or all up in you guys' business, but some of the enclosure setups are just designed really for your guys' convenience and ease and in and out of there, but also like for the animals, they're just built. You guys have like a ton of soil in there, and your water features are all. And the way I see it hooked up, it's just it makes sense. The way things flow, it just I couldn't explain it anymore, but I mean, I guess we could start from the ground. I mean, your guys' ground and the whole room is heated, yeah?
So we have it all on the central heating system. I'm not entirely sure what we actually have that set at. The rooms are so insulated, it retains heat very, very well. And just the sheer volume of basking lights that we actually have in there, it keeps that ambient temp pretty high. I mean, each one of those basking lights gets up to right around that 120 to 130 mark. Yeah. And when you have 40 or 50 of them in a room, it really bumps the ambient temp very quickly up to the 80s. And then in the summer, I mean, you're talking 90, 100 degrees sometimes. So we got to have fans going actually to keep them a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Do you actually have to change in the winter when you go in there? There's like shorts and a t-shirt?
Oh, yeah. I don't even bother anymore. I go in flip-flop. There'll be a foot of snow on the ground. Flip-flops, gym shorts are cut off.
Yeah.
Man, now, okay, so, for us, we talk a lot about cage building on this podcast, and it is for a lot of the new beginners and us ourselves, just learning new techniques on how to do stuff. And Do you guys have like? I think I've seen like rolling in and out of like your bins and your major like. I think I've seen water containers that you guys can bring in and out, right? And
Yep.
they're easily slide in and out. And then I've also seen big, huge tubs of dirt that you just slide in and out.
Yep, that's
And
correct.
damn, it's just. I mean, it's just the ease of that, you know. I gotta
It's so
dig through
funny.
tons of soil.
Looking from like cage to cage, it's so funny. I call them like phase 1 and phase 2 because that's one of my favorite aspects of actually keeping the larger varanids is the cage design itself. And after you build it, you figure out the flaws and weaknesses, and you go,
Yeah.
nuts, I wish I'd done this. So when it comes time to create another set, you apply that and you figure out any flaws with that, and you just continue and continue and continue along that path.
Right.
Like you were talking about those water trays. That's what we tend to
Yeah.
use for our babies and some of our like sub-adult monitors, not quite beyond that juvenile phase yet, but still relatively small. We actually just took some old CB70s that we had lying around, and Kevin pretty much just built a frame that allowed that to be slid in and out from underneath and just utilize a water base as a
Yeah.
substrate to make it easier to change. So we go through, we change that at least twice a day, just vacuum it out, replace new
Mm.
water, and they do absolutely amazing on it.
Yeah.
Twice a day. You guys
Oh,
are
yes.
moving through there. Yeah,
Yep.
that is awesome.
Yeah, like you said, convenience has been probably the biggest factor. When I started there,
Yeah, convenience. I mean, picture how many water tubs, right? And how many.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already flipping out about what I have, maybe 12 or something like that, water pans to change. And, you know,
Yep.
they're not really that heavy, but picture giant Salvatore's water pan.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's so the ease, you know, to make it simple for. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, where you know you kind of have like a hose and it kind of sucks it all out to a certain area. I mean, how does your guys' flow? You guys have a
Yeah, so there's a
vacuum?
couple different ways that we have it designed. So for the youngest monitors that we have, like fresh out of the egg, it's still we just do it manually. You just grab the little water bin, dump it out, put a brand
Yeah.
new one in there, bleach it out so there's no bacterial infections, anything like that. But as you get up in size, we actually have a shop vac. So you just drain out the water, or it's hooked up to a central, one of the central drainage lines. And at that point, it's just turning a valve or pulling a plug, and it'll just drain right through.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Man,
that makes it
it's-
so much easier.
Right. I steer clear of water monitors, and like Mertens are beautiful, but for that very
Right.
reason is
So much water to have.
right.
Oh yes.
Right.
I mean, it's and so for me, if you wanted to take it, I still do things the hard way. You know, I still bucket everything. I've got like
Yeah.
little giant Arizona jugs, you know, that
Yeah.
I got from Costco that I refill, and you know, that's what I carry back and forth from either the hose or the sink or whatever. And yeah, that's my normal refill, you know.
Yep.
And then I'll empty stuff into like a bucket, and then I'll take it to wherever I want to dump it out in the back or something like that. And yeah, that's my getup. But now, so as far as your guys is like, you know, I've seen people say like as having a completely enclosed enclosure is absolutely necessary. And I've seen some of your guys is they're graded in the front where it's a mesh front or something like that, right?
Yep.
And that's because your whole room and everything also maintains great humidity. Or
Yes. Yep. So we
Okay.
got those rooms. I mean, pretty much each one of those tubs, like I said, at that size has a water base for a substrate. So those animals are already kicking around at minimum 80% humidity, all the way up to
Yeah.
like 100%.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, in the rooms that we have that particular setup, we also have our Tokay cages, and those are hooked up to a Mist King that kicks on every couple of hours for a certain duration of time. So that also really helps increase the ambient humidity. So it does
Man.
keep everything really. It makes it a joy to work in August,
I could
as you can imagine. Oh yeah.
You got to hydrate a lot in there, yeah.
Oh yeah.
What particularly like? Well, let me start back a little bit. How long have you been working over there for Nerd?
So officially, I've been with Nerd for I think 3.5 years now, but it's really been 5. We have a retail store called Zoo Creatures that I actually started off in with Rob Christian before Rob was one of the
Is that
managers up at Nerd.
downstairs?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so I worked down there for I think just over a year, and then I got poached by the old manager Josh Ortiz, and
Nice.
Josh took me up, and yeah, from there I've pretty much been working with the Verandid since then.
Upstairs, huh? Nice. You know,
And
it's
is that
crazy for like years and years and years. Sorry, bro. For when we were kids, I think 15, 16, and King Snake chat room. They had like kingsnake.com had a chat room, right?
Yeah.
Me and Rob were in that thing like day and night, man.
Oh yeah, Rob has all sorts of great stories about some of the
Dude,
conversations he had there.
dude, it's crazy. And to go to see where it's gone now, and we'll see where he's gone, and it's just like the amazing work that he does on the regular. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, man, I've seen him. I've grown up watching him. Work. We've grown up together essentially.
Yep.
In the hobby.
that's awesome stuff.
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Ellen?
I don't even remember. It was something around. Oh, I remember. So I was going to ask, as far as monitors, is that primarily what you work with over there at the facility, or?
At this point, yes. It was kind of a little bit surprising to me because my big thing, I've always just loved snakes. Snakes have been
Right.
my go-to, especially the larger pythons. So the first time I got up there, I immediately started working with the larger retics. I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And then from there, I kind of went to the Bloods and the Bolins and some of the scrubs that we had. Papuan pythons, loved those things.
Man,
But
you get
I
to
slowly
see
kind of
Roland.
eked more and more into the little Varanids. And
Yeah.
then it just kind of escalated from there. And it pretty
That's
much
where
just
it
snowballed
starts.
into, yeah, now I'm doing all the breeding and take care of all the babies.
I used to be not a berm guy. Like I didn't breed them a ton, but I used to have more berms at one point than I had monitors when I was younger.
Really?
And then I got into like seeing my first Niles and stuff like that. And at one point, I was having more snakes than monitors. Maybe like for at least a few years in high school, but and then I just started to. I don't know, man. Just getting more and more Varans as well, where it's phasing out of the snakes and becoming almost 100% addicted to Varanids. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It really is a slippery slope.
I don't know. It's like, okay, don't get me wrong. And man, all right, you snake guys, I love you, but this is gonna hurt a little bit. Snakes can be a little bit boring sometimes, where it's like you're just feeding them once a week, right? Or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like. And they're not doing a whole ton unless you do give them stuff to have natural behavior, and then that's really cool. But sometimes they're just sitting there. But these lizards, man, these monitor lizards are bouncing back and forth, and so that whole intelligence stuff that you guys are always showing the presence of when you guys are showing your water monitor. So that's what basically gets it for me. It's essentially I don't know, dinosaur or a dog within a lizard body.
Yeah.
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 I agree with you 100%. I think that's one of the things that really kind of hooked me onto them was the whole behavioral aspect of it. Snakes, after a while, they just become so easy to read. It's almost
Right.
nonchalant with the way you can kind of handle them, even,
Yeah.
more aggressive species like
Right.
scrubs and white lips. But the Varanids, you just constantly got to be on your toes and be observing them. And they really do have their own separate personalities, even just not even day to day, but hour to hour, minute to minute.
That is awesome. I'm seeing that many animals. I'm sure you pick up on a lot of different things and species, animals. You pick up on a lot of different behaviors going on throughout the entire collection. I'm sure it's just a wealth of information as far as learning about those animals, learning how to read those animals,
Yeah.
seeing different problems that actually pop up too, learning to fix those or adjust towards those little issues and man, yeah. So just in a little amount of time, you'd say 3.5 years. I think you said you've been officially working there. You probably learned so much more than some people could probably learn over a lifetime, just because you have that.
What's crazy is
ability.
some of it's not even told to you. It might just be right there for you to learn with already.
Yeah.
That's also dope too.
Yeah, that's one of the funny things because it's something you never really notice until you have the opportunity to train somebody else or when you're interacting with it. Like I did it actually with Kevin the other day, and I noticed the lizard did a tongue flick a little bit weird. And I said, "Oh, Kev, time to put it down," and it just kind of turned its head really quick, like it was going to bite him. And yeah, that's how I saw it. And I was like, I kind of assumed that you would have seen it. Just the way that it did that little variation of a tongue flick, it told me that it wasn't a happy animal. It was ready to end a little interaction.
Oh, yeah, I would love to just day in, day out read that, almost like just the what would you even call it? I don't. Oh,
Just to endless behaviors.
What's that Star Wars? Not the Jedi. What are the other guys? The trainees.
Oh, the little like Padawans.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. Getting to learn all that firsthand, man. So what is your favorite thing over there right now to work as far as monitors? Which ones are you?
Do you got one that's like coined it's yours?
I mean, the project I take the most pride in is probably doing the Sumbawa locality.
Okay.
I absolutely love breeding the Sumbawas. But as far as specific animals, there's one named Gubu. Gubu's my baby. I absolutely love him.
Nice.
And what kind is Gubu?
So Gubu is a super guru.
Okay, super guru.
Yep.
Man, I need to pay more attention.
So super guru, can you explain that? Super guru is what? Like just much more high contrast?
Yep. Yeah. So the guru, I don't even know technically called a locality or a codominant morph. But essentially just a monitor with an enhanced coloration. The patterning isn't really all that different. It is slightly different in the super form. There's more of a banding as opposed to an oscillation. And it looks almost a little bit more, best way I can describe it is almost like camouflage.
Yeah.
As the yellow goes down the back. But it really does just create a really high intensity yellow animal when they end up reproducing. So it's not something that's a major difference, but it is a really cool little trait.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a guru and a sulfur for I don't know a few months, and they landed in my lap. They got traded and turned into smaller monitors that don't require water, but they were fun. They were gorgeous. It's just they grew so fast in a few months. I couldn't wait to get them out the door before they got too big. And I was getting attached to myself and the family. They had never been exposed to crawfish before, but we went and caught some fresh ones in a lake out here and threw them in the cage, and they knew exactly how to declaw them and get into them, get that meat out of them, and it was pretty amazing.
It's amazing watching the instincts kick in sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So super guru, I know. See, and this is maybe my fault that because I don't keep animals that require water, I have kind of not paid too much attention to what's going on in that whole world. I know there's a lot of things going on as far as different locales, different genetics.
So much to the water monitor game. Before it was just like a high yellow, and then you'd have to really get to somebody to differentiate between a couple different specifics, and I don't know. Now there's so many localities that come in and different tones and colors. It's like, you've got sulfurs that are cleaner, some that are dirty. You've got Maduras that look like sulfurs. So many. I mean, now just on the top of your head, like the number of monitors that are there, that's like in the 1,000 count or something.
Oh, that's a tough one. I wouldn't quite say 1,000 yet.
Oh, okay. There's still hundreds though. That's a lot to feed.
Yeah, I would say probably breeder stock alone, we probably got right around 100 lizards. Yeah, maybe another like 30 or so that we're raising up, and then with babies, we're kind of at a little bit of a lull right now. I did a brief count today. I think we're right around 200, but I had another clutch of 30 hatch out and another clutch of I think 18 begin hatching out today.
Nice.
You know what? I'm rethinking everything right now. I'm thinking about your situation. I'm like, you get to go play with lizards for your job, but then you get to go home, and you don't have to take them home with you. It's kind of like the grandkids, for grandparents. It's like, oh, play, and then you get to take off to your own place.
Oh yeah. Yeah, with the water monitor, with all the Varanid stuff, that's great. And then I come home and I smell a bunch of dirty gecko cages, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, man. So, dude, I don't know, man. It's now as far as your current you yourself, when you're going to get into Brandon's, or are you planning on moving? Or are the laws changing, or are you just going to do Ackies?
So I've actually started looking for a house in New Hampshire. So
Okay.
ideally next year, I'll end up
What's your
moving, and then from
what's
there,
your
probably
jump?
going to get in the sulfurs. I
Okay.
really like the sulfurs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're awesome.
Yeah, I
Big.
had one when I was young too. I used to bring
Yep.
it in my sweater in high school, bro. Like that's how that's how much I used to love the sulfur when I was younger, man. It
Oh,
was
that's
crazy.
awesome.
They came in a little bit cleaner when I was younger for some reason. I don't know what it is, but you've seen the few different types of sulfurs that come in, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, there's a few different color tones. I don't and don't ask me where they're from, man, because I really don't know. And it's just there's so it's a sulfur is Bivitatis,
I
or
believe so. Yeah, I think it's Bevitatis.
okay, yeah. So that's as far as really my major knowledge on Varanus Salvatore.
Yeah.
I'm not like I mean, I used to have Togianus when I was younger as well. That one was a fun one, man. And I don't know. It's I think after that, I realized they were just so big for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having like an 8 foot enclosure, and once they were 4 foot, and it was over for me then, because the animal basically outgrew me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I kind of ventured off to smaller lizards that are more and more capable, more my size, that I don't have to get rid of after I bonded with them too.
Yep.
Which sucks. Yeah, which sucks, man. But
Same here.
yeah, I try to buy and try to do stuff much more responsibly now. So, things I try to hold on to forever and bond with and do all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, are you guys just there? It's not just like Disneyland, and you're just one water monitor over here and another water monitor over here, and you're just kind of like playing. I mean, are you guys doing socializing like regularly, where it's like a regular part of your regular scheduled routine, or is it just some as you go?
So the socialization really comes down to
Because
it
you guys
starts when they're
implement
young.
that, yeah.
What was that?
Because you guys implement that a lot, where
Yes.
yeah, I think you guys get it right from the get-go, the very first tongue click, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep. And the amount of socialization that they receive and the amount of interaction they have really is determined by a couple things. One is typically the pairing. So, for example, the normals that we produce now from the Gubu clutches that we hatch out, those are, I believe, 5th generation. Those are almost
Okay.
amazing the instant they come out of the egg. They require little to no work. Like it's a
Awesome.
couple weeks of an hour of playing here and there, and they're ready to go. You can give them to like a 2-year-old kid, and they'd become best friends for life. With some of our other pairings, like for example, one of our Xanthic girls, she was an import. Was it 2 years ago now? So everything from her is everything she produces a little bit more standoffish. They require a lot more work, a lot more attention. So those animals, longer socialization process, increased frequencies, increased durations, and we make sure that we get multiple people going in on it too, so that they don't get used to just that one familiar face.
All
I
right.
like it. So you definitely notice a generational behavior difference.
Oh, yeah,
'cause that's
without a
something,
doubt.
of course, we talk about is, like you could say Aki's been in it so long, so they're definitely a lot more docile, a different disposition just because they've been so far removed or so many years of being bred in captivity. But it's something that you've actually seen firsthand from basically animals closer to the wild as it progresses over the years to animals that are further separated from
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep, that, and also just the behavior of the parents as well. When you have one that has, even if it's just a little bit more on edge, not even necessarily an animal you can't interact with, something that just
Right.
is a little bit more skittish, maybe when you enter the enclosure, and then it figures out what's going on, and it's okay with you. Products of a breeding with that tend to be a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more skittish, a little bit more scared, and require a little bit more time to break down that barrier and really build that trust and that bond
So-
with you.
All right, so man, I guess here's something that you can possibly help me out with, because yeah, I'm not. I actually myself have a couple imports that are mangrove monitors or type of mangrove monitors, and they
Okay.
were imported as adults. So you kind of get the feel, they kind of they know what the wild is, so they really hate captivity.
Yep.
They're bigger adults, right? All right, so um, I've really, I think I might have messed up where with this one where, I kind of got too comfortable with just playing musical cages with him and swapping him with different girls or moving him around, right? Because he basically he hates when you touch him too much or something like that. He'll tongue
Yep.
feed, and he's pretty good with some interaction, but if you let one up on him, he'll bite you, or if you have him outside and turn your eye, he'll take off.
Yeah.
But what I really want is, how do I get him to breed? Okay, so the my goal is to utilize him to breed, but he's so frantic, and so I mean, I've introduced him, and some girls he'll tackle right away. Some
Yep.
girls he'll wait a little bit and he'll get them like later on. He'll bite something, and then I'm like, okay, that's a bad enough bite for me to remove her and let her heal, and I'll try again. But
Yep.
no, sometimes, dude, it's so hair raising and so hectic, right?
Yeah.
Where I kind of want to do things a little bit more safer, but more so respectively for the animal too. Just to understand, him himself. I realize, all right, you're a wild caught as an adult. You came in big, so you obviously hate me. When you see me, you dart to the other side of the cage. This is like how bad he can be. Basically, if you look at him wrong, he'll take a crap in your direction, and
Yeah.
it'll be projectile, right? Or he can have food and he'll even take it off the tongs, but let's say I'm looking at him, he'll just drop it and he'll just be like,
Yeah.
"Yo, you're not giving me my enough respect." And so I'll walk away and he'll eat it, right? So it's like it wasn't the food, it's just me, right? And so
Yep.
um my now thing after going so long and trying to work with them, trying to mess with his cage, redo designs. Man, my only thing right now is just trying to give him as much respect as I can. Like, what would be your recommendation on maybe breaking the barrier with not just me and myself with him, but also a recommendation for how I can help him with the girls? Because dang, it's just yeah,
So
it's a hard.
the first thing, I mean, obviously it's still obvious. Make sure it's a male, which I assume it is.
Yeah, it's a
But
male, and it's bred with a big girl before.
yeah,
So, but
okay.
it won't breed with any of these other medium sized girls that are even its same locality. The female mangrove that he bred with before was a bigger Indonesian type,
Yep.
same size as him roughly, but she wasn't easy to push over, and a little bite from him wasn't going to do anything. But these smaller girls are kind of getting, he can lift them and kind of just yeet them across the cage, and so yeah, it's like I'm trying to avoid stuff like that. And so you got like recommendations on what you guys do with your mean ones? Is there like a prep session before really getting to breed?
Yeah, so pretty much the biggest thing for us is ultrasounding. So we obviously keep very, very close tabs on the actual follicle development of the monitors.
Okay. All right.
But also, it really does come down just to pairings. We have some animals that will not get along with each other whatsoever. It doesn't matter the circumstances. They will just go after each other.
Yeah.
Others, they could not care less. You could just
That's-
toss them right in together and they'll just kind of hang out and be like, oh, what's up?
Yeah.
But I mean, in your case, what I always do whenever we get a new animal in, first and foremost, I just put it in the enclosure, make sure it's very, very basic, nowhere for the animal to hide, and I force it to have to see me. I don't interact with it in any way, shape, or form, but I use a loud vacuum, make sure that I suck out the water to get him used to loud noises, something that might freak him out nearby, and make sure that he has to see me to associate me as just a part of his day-to-day life or her day-to-day life. And you continue that for a while, and like you said, tong feeding for me is typically the next step. Start getting them to actually eat off of tongs and do it in front of you. I've had them do that thing before, well, they'll take it and they'll drop it. I don't leave the room. I make them eat it in front of me. Otherwise, I just take it away and then I leave afterward. And I try again in a couple days.
Yeah. You're
And
not
you gotta-
eating unless you're eating, right? Yeah.
What was that?
You're basically like they're not eating unless they're actually eating, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Yes. And now what's crazy is that the way you mentioned how taking away stuff. So what's helped him be? So what he would used to do is, let's say he'd be hiding in a court tube, right? And
Yep.
he'd be tucked away, and a female would walk across the entrance or go to the front of it, and he'd projectile out, like charge out of it, and basically protecting. I'm assuming he's protecting his burrow or protecting his hide, right?
Yep. That's
And
correct.
and he's essentially just defending it. So I'm like, okay. So what I did is I removed all the court tubes. Sadly, even though I know he wants to hide, I removed them all. And
Yep.
basically now all I have are just planks against the wall, basically like shelves, and they
Yep.
make a couple ramps that go up, and he can sleep now in the corner. But it's like there's no more. You're not going to just disappear from me anymore. And even if it's a big cork tube that I can see in from the side, and I can make holes in it to see through and stuff like that, it wasn't really helping at all. So I mean, it's kind of really cool how you mentioned that, man.
Yeah.
Any more recommendations that you guys would do as far as stages and steps?
As far as that, it goes against kind of one of the golden rules of breeding of always introducing the male to the girl's cage. But in
Yeah.
a scenario like this, sometimes it doesn't hurt to move the girl into the male's enclosure, because it sounds like he's getting far more stressed out with being in the new area. He's seeking out
Yeah.
that new little hide, so to speak, to
Right.
claim as his own. And he's going to defend that with his life because he now knows that's where he's confident, that's where he's hiding, that's his home. So
Yeah.
anything that comes near it to him is now a threat. It's danger. He has to protect it. If you move the girl into his enclosure and it's already a nice open space where he should, in theory, be confident and comfortable, he might tolerate it a little bit more.
I'm gonna try a little bit of back and forth. I really always wanna get him, because me grabbing him, lifting him up, and just he's gonna dart off into the new cage, so it's not gonna be a pretty sight to begin with. And
Yes.
so, like, leaving him in his own cage, I really want to do that as well, just because it skips a frantic stage to where, all right, man, you're probably going to be biting and stuff like that, during this period, because you're hectic right now. And
Yep.
yeah, yeah, man, I'm really, really trying to get to that point where he's gotten better. So, he definitely eats a lot better now. And because I took away the highs at one point, he was like, oh man, like I actually hate life more or something. But he started to come around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really trying to get to a point where he's good enough with the girls. Like, he's been a little bit better as far as um, charging and rushing. So there's basically less of that, and if I can help it, the female's got a lot of places to hide and tuck away from the male, but he can't go nowhere though. Because the tubes are only so big for the girls only. Maybe
Yep.
like 2 to 2.5, 3 inches in diameter, and then the males, he's already big and chunky. He can't really fit through that easy, so he'd have to really squeeze.
Yeah,
Um,
that's perfect. The other thing that I can think of too is just the size difference, because it will
Yeah.
happen. It's not as common, I think, in water monitors or any of the really larger varanid species, but
Yeah.
there are instances where I have seen large males go after small girls, or most often vice versa. Large girls will go after small males.
Yeah,
So bulking up the girls or getting potentially the same locality or a different locality could help just a little bit in the long run.
right. And now what's weird. It's like I don't know if you've seen like Argus monitors where the male is huge and the female
yeah.
is just really dinky, and they still do well, right? And this is almost the same scenario. The male is 4 feet, but the girls are barely passing 2, more like 26, 28 inches max, not even 3 feet yet, really, like that, where they're a pretty solid size and length. They're more small, like they're the length of his tail more so than anything.
Yep.
And so he just dwarfs them. And,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a trick we actually used on the breeding pair Argus that we have at the store. So we really put the food to that girl. She didn't really gain much, like you said, lengthwise, but in terms of just
Yeah.
bulking up a little bit, it really did help her in the long run in terms of just competing with the male for food.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of shove him off a little bit when he got a little too overzealous or angsty with her.
And that's exactly what I want. I want the girl to be able to just chunk him with the male, kind of just push him back and forth a little bit, or be able to move and get around swift enough. Man, at this point, like yesterday, and what's weird is he's attacked one girl where he's like grabbed her really bad, right? But
Yep.
but with this current girl that's with him, he's only like he does really soft nips where it doesn't even bleed, if anything, you know.
Yeah,
And so
that could
I'm
even be him trying to stimulate a breeding response, similar to the raking
Yeah,
that
so
they do.
not so much as raking. He's just like doing test bites. He'll kind of nip their back a little bit. I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse than that. But lately, it's been kind of just him a little charge. You know, I keep him full, so he can't. It's not like, oh, you're hungry or or
Yeah.
more so sometimes when I keep them full, it keeps them from doing so much crazy stuff because they're sluggish. You know.
Yep.
That's my thing right now, where I'm keeping him more fed than anything. And
Yep.
if I keep him fed, he won't go and chase and look for stuff, you know.
Yep. Yeah, I'll run that by a buddy of mine. He's actually doing some research over in Indonesia right now, regarding Dorianus. And he's noticed kind of similar behavior to that, where it seems like the male will almost nip at the girl a little bit,
Yeah.
and kind of essentially get them going.
Yeah, man, it's tough because those little nips, man. It's like, oh,
It puts you
dude,
on edge.
yeah, it does. And so, okay, I'm like, all right, like no, no guts, no glory, or at least like if I don't go through all this little stuff, maybe it'll lead to actual some breeding. So I do let a little of the nipping and stuff like that go on, but once it's like torn flesh and stuff like that, and it's really bleeding, then I'll remove them out.
Yeah, at that point, you got no other option.
Yeah, but quick slices right here, like a little nick, I'm not really gonna sweat it, right? It's like,
Yeah,
it's part of the process, almost. Yeah.
Have you?
unfortunately.
I stepped away for a second, Kai, but have you tried that male with that female he bred with again?
Nah, she died.
Oh man, I'm
So I got her to double clutch. Those didn't do too well. Then the two that hatched out of that clutch were just Partho babies. They actually didn't
Gotcha.
have any of the Kylan in them at all. So I just sold them as Partho babies.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but so I have a mutt male from that first clutch that I have. He's now like a year old now, so
Yeah.
I hatched them out 2020 this time. But yeah, I'm basically trying to use him now as an adolescent. This dude wasn't so nice either, and I'm just like, all right, bro, maybe you just got to get past this adolescent stage, where they're trying to figure stuff out, and they're kind of pushing each other's buttons more, puffing up a lot more because they're bigger, charging each other and stuff like that, right? And so, I have him separate right now, and I introduce him relatively often to other girls, but it's quick though. It's not really anything. It's just more so he's used to the shuffle.
Yep.
So that way he's not freaking out, yeah. Man, there's a lot that you actually get to witness, bro. I'm not gonna lie, I'm jealous. I'm because it's like I wish I can see that behavior with what you got just at work, right?
Yep.
And then implement it to my stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so hard to describe, but it's literally just that one tongue flick, that one extra tongue flick, or that one kind of off-speed one, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about the interaction that's about to occur. Whether that pairing you just created is going to be incredibly successful, or one of the most brutal battles you'll ever see.
All right, so what are those tongue flicks, man? Because the long friendly ones, and they're kind of like, and when they're both tongue flicking like that, that's the good one you're looking for, right?
Yeah, so generally when they go in and interact, one of the keys that I do for introduction purposes, you never put them on the same level, or at least not in eyesight of each other right away. That almost always will stimulate a fight. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I'm pretty sure it's more of a defensive reaction than anything. It's oh, look, another animal's in my territory. I have to go fight it now. But when you put one, like say in a water basin, the other down below, or if one's up on a basking platform, and you put the other one on the ground, when they kind of stumble into each other, it seems to be a little bit more of a friendlier greeting. Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like oh, hey, what are you doing here? and you pick up on some nice long slow tongue flicks, they kind of check each other out. They'll usually circle, go face to face for a bit. The issues are going to occur where all of a sudden you see that sharp stuttering tongue flick. That's that first sign of, hey, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. And pretty much right then and there is going to determine how things are going to go. If you see the long tongue flicks resume shortly after, you know that the animal is just a little startled. There shouldn't be any bad blood. But if you see any type of variation beyond that, throat puffing, maybe the curling of the tail, inconsistent tongue flicks, you know something bad is likely on the horizon.
Yeah. Dang. I'm actually that sparks every single light that I'm, as far as behavior that I've recognized, you know.
Yep.
You guys are mainly doing the Salvatore species, right? Is there other species you're doing over there?
Only other one that I'm breeding right now are the Argus monitors.
Okay.
I have one clutch that's due to hatch out. It's actually overdue to hatch out at this point. I think I got 2 others in the incubator right now there. But aside from that, we got a couple pairs of croc monitors that we're raising up, a small trio of Dorianus, and we have a few different species of tree monitors, although I'm not entirely sure if the intention is going to be to breed those or not.
Gotcha. Now, would you say the behaviors that you notice, or can you say they're specific across the board, or do they vary between each species?
There's going to be variations between each species. And most of the behavior that I've seen is obviously just from the water monitors, Salvatore, just because of the sheer volume of them that I work with. But right. Argus, for example, they won't do as much of that tongue flicking. It's going to be a lot more actual body posturing, a lot more throat puffing, tail whipping, standing up with the hind legs. I've even seen before when they get kind of ticked off.
Dude, they do that like that tail push where it's like they just throw their butt at you and it kind of hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them. We have a male that's done that to a couple girls before. He can be a piece of work.
Yeah,
man, I hear some of these stories, and I'm thinking my lucky stars right now. I don't have anything that's really out of hand. I can pretty much change around whoever I need to, and they all seem to get along just fine. But it's mainly Australian monitors too, except for some of the Indonesian dwarf stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, it's species. More all the stuff that we kind of have, we just leave alone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the captive bred stuff, I try to. Okay, so not gonna lie, a lot of the stuff that Kevin and you guys implement, as far as just understanding, like the whole rope and the thread thing and stuff like that, just building positive interactions with them regularly, and just that's the stuff that I work with my captive bred mangroves, and even the Kimberleys. I try to sneak in a couple of chin rubs, or make them chase the tongues a little bit, but yeah, I try to do that so that way all the customers are getting they're getting satisfaction, because most people, to be honest, they're not at our level or something like that where they want to have a ton. They just want to have one pet. They want to have a token lizard because they have a ton of snakes, or they just want one monitor lizard. They don't, and they want it as a pet. Where, in a sense, it's rewarding because we've seen mean ones, and man, just to get in to do the water change, that's like life threatening. Or
it's a battle and a half.
Yeah. So, and people don't really want that as just average keepers where they just want a couple.
Yeah, that's one of the aspects that I really do enjoy about breeding monitors as opposed to pretty much any snake. I don't enjoy breeding snakes as much because I know more than likely it's going to be somebody who just sticks it in a bin as something to have. When people get the larger varanids, it really is something like a dog to them. They take it out, they play with it, they interact with it, they look forward to seeing it on a day-to-day basis. There's just a much deeper connection there, and I really do enjoy that aspect of breeding them. And being able to supply someone that good, high-quality, beautiful animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straight out of the egg, you're seeing them look at you. You're seeing those tongue flicks.
You just let them tongue flick your finger, and it's like, oh, dang.
Yeah. When you see them eat that first bug, chase down and eat that first bug, it's like the small victory there.
Yeah, you just get all sorts of excited.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a question. I think a lot of people have their own ways of doing it. Like, for example, I use just like paper towel in a plastic container right after they're out of the egg. Well, I've seen you guys take the current egg container that they're hatching out of and just set it on top of like in a moat on water, right? And
Yep.
then they run out, kind of get their first gist of swimming, cleaning off a little bit, right? And then what do you guys do then? Then they go straight into baby cages?
Yep, that's exactly right. So we put them in that little moat. Essentially, that way we don't just have to continuously actually take the eggs out of the incubator to pull the little guy out, put him in a bin of water to soak them, put it back in, pull it out, and repeat that process. By putting it in that little moat, they have the opportunity to just kind of jump out. And once you see that it's kind of full, you can take them out, put them into a different soak with clean water, get them hydrated. And yeah, from there, pretty much they get split up into a couple different groups depending on the quantity that we produce. And they just get set up and established from there.
Nice. Yeah, that's for I do. I actually not exactly the same thing, but I just doing because I only hatch a few, so I'm doing the long process like what you talked about, where I just take them, give them a quick rinse, put them on dry paper towel, get the umbilical stuff cleaned up, get that area cleaned up, and then put them in a bear cage.
Yep.
Yeah. And now, and a lot of the things I've adopted as well, as far as care and keeping babies, right? Like, I would love to throw a monitor in a baby monitor in a fully decked out cage, a ton of soil and all that stuff like that. But I really just keep them bare, and it allows me to do much more. At one point I put babies that I hatched out in nice setups because I thought that's what they would love, but it just made things harder for me.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to see an animal's health deteriorate so quickly. Because as soon as they find that one little nook or cranny they feel confident and comfortable in,
yeah,
sometimes they just won't come out.
Days,
it's that simple. Yep.
Weeks.
Yeah, they won't go out to get a drink of water. They won't go out to get an insect. It's just that's it.
And then they'll develop that. And it's kind of like already built-in honed instincts to go and hide, but then they'll develop, all right, I'm this gremlin that's now in this little nook, and you're gonna have to pay me to come by.
Yep.
It's really like, and so but yeah, they're like this little they're just scared, and they'll develop this behavior more and more. That's what I saw, and so now I just have them with, at first they're just on paper towels and newspaper, or even just like an inch of bedding where it's fairly dry, and they'll have the water dish. I'll soak them regularly, and that's is one of my bonding times. But I bond a lot with tongue feeding as well. So
yep.
Yeah, for little babies, man, it's like it's golden to really be able to do that.
Yeah, that bare bones approach is it's crucial for developing that really friendly social animal. Taking away the ability to kind of hide and escape from any situation they feel uncomfortable in, or more that they're uncertain of. It really goes a long way.
For little babies, it's still very simple to apply and be able to take care of their needs because they're so small. It's
exactly.
The water dish, a humid hide, and then you have like your little basking area, and that's kind of all they really need.
So many people overthink it.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Or I think what I see is a lot of people will, whatever species they're keeping, if they're starting off with a baby, is they will go ahead and deck out this enclosure, which is awesome. But I think sometimes starting off with something simple can reward you later on through the process, because then the next posts or questions are, how do I tame this monitor down? How do I interact with it? I can't. He won't tolerate me, and I think.
Is it supposed to be hiding for 5 days?
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah, that's probably still the most common call I get is, "Oh, hey, I bought this monitor from you. It was super friendly, but I haven't seen it in like 3 days." And you're like, "Oh, well, okay. Well, send me a picture of the enclosure," and they send you this exquisite, amazingly designed cage that they've spent probably thousands of dollars on, and then you have to tell them, "You got to tear that all down. Just do." A piece of newspaper, maybe a piece of cork bark, and you're all set.
Yeah, what we want listeners to understand is this is if you set it up this way, okay, so for the record, monitor lizards, why there isn't a ton of info on them and stuff like that as far as wild research is because they're very hard to track.
Oh, yeah.
Being a microhabitus, they're basically that's where they're gonna tuck into. It's their home tree or some type of burrow that leads into the ground or in between rock crevices or whatever, right?
Right.
Essentially, if you're gonna set up a monitor like that where you are giving them a ton of hides, well, that's what the monitor is going to be doing. It's gonna that's built in, and you gave it that. And so now we want people to understand that you can manipulate this where they're still doing that, but you still get the benefit. You can still peep them out. It's still easy to access. And for me, as far as adding to what like Nerd does, as far as simplicity in the setup and how I bond with them, I just put a little elevated hide, and I face the cork tube towards me. It gives the animal still the place to hide, but just one or two, not 12 or not 10 or even 4 or 5, just a couple designated ones that it's going to have. It's going to hide there, and you get to peep it out,
Yeah, that's exactly what we do with our basking platforms. Pretty much it's just almost like a piece of corrugated tubing with a basking tile on top, sawn in half, and then you just face it toward you, so they have to look out at you. They still feel like they get that security, but they have to watch you interact. Yeah. And one of the other huge benefits to that is, especially when we're cohabitating clutches together, you get that couple of individuals that love the attention. They catch on really quickly. They love the chin rubs, the head scratches, the tail rubs, all that stuff. The monitors that are a little bit more skeptical and are hiding, watch that interaction between you and the good lizards, and they kind of pick up on it as, hey, maybe this isn't a bad thing. Maybe it's actually a good thing. And eventually get the confidence to come try it out. And they realize that it's actually a really beneficial relationship that you can have.
Right.
I do similar thing. And now I don't necessarily have to do it with the big monitor or bigger monitors that I keep. I'm talking, 3-foot monitors at the largest. But with a lot of the dwarf species, you'll find that one that's a little more bold. I'll let it watch me, take whatever. Sometimes it's just like something like a super worm. Put it in the dish and just put it in. So the next time when I come in, it's coming towards the front of the cage as I'm putting a food item in there. And then it's the other one's little heads are poking out from wherever they are. And they watch me get to the point where I can feed that one animal by hand. And I only do that because it is the dwarf monitors. I'm not really worried about anything going wrong there. But
not too much damage to worry about.
Right. And so they watch it, and then all of a sudden they're now investigating what that other animal's getting, what that other animal's eating with the tongue flicks, and kind of looking at them or trying to steal that food item as they do. And eventually, it's like one of them will get the courage up to do that quick run in and grab it from my fingers and then take off. And then that process. I always keep a group here at the house rather than the warehouse, and it's just kind of keep myself fresh with that, watch that going on, make sure I'm seeing those behaviors and with the holdback groups, and just to kind of acclimate them, because once that group's good, then usually I'll move that group out to the warehouse. There's a little bit of a change in just the area, the other animals, the other smells, but it catches on pretty quick. And like you said, with an enclosure, they can actually see me out of. For my own reasons, I use a few enclosures that are top opening, basically, and they can't see out. You can see out the top, but the rest of it is just a bin. And I've definitely noticed even a regression in some of the animals that were good with like a glass front or something they could see me out of. Definitely noticed a regression in some of those animals as far as open it from the top for those different reasons. They couldn't see me coming. They don't see anything. And then all of a sudden I'm there, they don't get to watch me. They can hear me maybe, but they can't really see me in and day out doing what I'm doing. So, excuse me, I'm coughing. I'm trying to mute myself before
you cough a lot when you talk a lot.
Maybe that's it. Oh man, these allergies out here are killing me right now.
Oh man,
the last week for me has been brutal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm making it though. I'm making it.
Yeah.
But going forward with more talk, just in general, what are you personally keeping right now?
I'm sorry. You say that one more time. It was just broken up a little bit.
what do you got in your own collection at home right now? You mentioned geckos earlier, but what are you keeping?
Yeah, so right now, man, I got probably 40 snakes or so. Another getting up there with lizards, probably about 50 or so lizards. Most recent lizard acquisition, I got a trio of jeweled lacerdas, Timon lepidus.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love those guys. Can't wait to breed them. I got gargoyles and cresteds going right now. I actually just got a pair of giant velvet geckos from Madagascar that'll be coming in tomorrow. I'm very,
The
very
bento
excited to work
gecko?
with those. Velvet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not the bentos. That's more Rob's alley. I leave those to him. He's in love with those.
Yeah, I remember that's the person. That's crazy because he's the one that showed me when he got them, or not showed me, but he showed the world. I was like, "Whoa, those are huge."
Yeah, he's got I think 3 different species right now. I want to say.
So
Yeah.
you definitely have your own animal. As soon as you get off of work and get home, you're back to it at your own house. From the sounds of it.
Oh yeah, it's kind of scary too. I'm not big into the morphs. I don't like the run of the mill stuff like ball pythons. The animals I got, northern white lips, Splodes pilatus mexicanus.
Okay.
I tend to keep a little bit more obscure stuff that requires a little bit of extra love.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Your collection is hot already. Well, the way.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I like the white lips and Splodes as well. If I were to do snakes in the big way like that, I can probably do Mexicana. But that's a gorgeous snake. My friend John Anderman has some of those. Yeah, and he's there. I mean, they're gorgeous. And they're like they eat like lizards, they just eat so much and they consume so fast. I don't know. Have you ever had
the metabolism on them it's stunning. I got to feed them multiple times a week, and it's the instant it goes in the cage, it's gone.
Yeah,
it's like 2 bites and it's gone. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's nuts. They're just like yum 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 yum, and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you got to see it in person. It's one of those things that's so hard to describe to someone who asks how a snake eats or how that particular snake eats, and you're like, dude, you just got to see it. You blink and it's gone. Like, it's amazing.
Shoves it in its mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I've seen some of those larger colubrids. They just, it's insane what they can do. How quick they can process a food item. How quick you can turn around and be cleaning up after those same snakes.
Oh yeah.
The smear.
Yeah.
The PVC cages were meant for you guys.
Oh yeah.
Easy to clean.
Pythons, man, I get spoiled keeping like the carpet pythons, especially. It's like, 10 days, 14 days, feed you. Come back. Oh yeah,
my breadline girl is my golden angel. She's just it's awesome to clean her. And then you got the Dominican red mountains on the other hand they tough Cribos in my opinion. They are so nasty.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Now, are they eating all the time, or are they just nasty. filthy little?
A little bit of both. So when I was keeping them initially, I kept them a little bit warmer. So I think it kind of kicked the metabolism up a notch. But since I got another rack and kind of kept that one a little cooler, it's the exact same thing. So I don't think it was just a phase or a slight husbandry change. I think it's just the way that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they consume a lot.
It does not have the consistency. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Dude, but they're like, picture having one though, that's enough to feed, and that's like having, as far as like beast wise, it's like having a king cobra without all the danger. It's a huge snake. I mean, I guess they get pretty massive themselves, like this.
For which species?
I'm sorry, we're talking about Cribos and stuff like that.
Oh
right?
Yes. Or the Cribos.
Yeah, man, it's just so big.
Yeah.
The head on them it's just nuts.
Yeah, the Cribos and the Susties, I'd say, kind of have that same sort of disposition and confidence that a lot of people look for.
Yeah. Man, so you got those. You mentioned the breadlight girl. No monitors yet in your personal collection.
Yeah, not yet. As soon as I get to New Hampshire, I'll get my hands on some nice sulfurs and some Molinas as well. I always had a soft spot for the Molinas.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, commit to those. If we were to get back in, I mean, if I were to get back into like doing those, man, I would only do it if I can really commit to having like the space. And now I know how to do them, where it's like more efficient with my space and how I'm doing things, and not just throwing them together and crossing my fingers.
Yep.
But now it's like, all right, we're trying to wait for the right timing. But man, those are things are they're cute and gorgeous, but man, they can be just as shy too. They're not really much as biters, but they're
Yeah, that's what I really like about them is that it's sort of placid personality. They're not something
Yeah.
that's too difficult to work with as long as you keep up with it.
yeah, man, they're
I hope someone gets into those and honestly starts. It's going to be a big project, but kind of what we were talking about earlier, breeding some of that, what we would consider, I guess, bad behavior.
breeding and then using
Yep.
the F2s to utilize to breed to make better babies. And
Right. The amount of
Yeah.
color you can get off of
Yeah.
those.
And
seems
that's
like-
what's really piqued my interest with the Molinas is with doing that selective breeding, you can really take a species that's already relatively friendly and docile and continue that process, but also really enhance the coloration and patterning on those. That's an animal I see a lot of potential with, not just in terms of creating a high yellow one, but a very high contrast animal as well.
that's currently what I'm doing right now with part of my mangrove project. So what I didn't realize this is what I was doing at the beginning, but so my Kai Island is really nice, and he's got crazy yellow spots. And instead of most mangroves, the spots kind of go away when they're older.
Yep.
His stayed, and so when I bred him with just the regular Indonesian mangrove, that were her spots left. Right, this new baby that came in looks crazy good, just like him, and he's got all the right markings. Great color mixed between the both, but still heavily yellow, right? And definitely not like the mom, because the mom basically became kind of dark and dull greenish, right? And definitely no spots, all of it fragmented. Now, I guess if I were to utilize him, I'm trying to produce and use him and make 75% Kai Islands with pure females that I have, because that's the only other male that I have. So, as far as me and my usage, I'm hoping to do that and make, because I can't classify them as pure Kai Islands. I'm just going to sell them as high yellow mangrove monitors.
Yep.
Or something like that. And that's kind of what I'm doing with this in the least of hopes, where, all right, I have this male here, I have these females here that I can plug in, and man, he's gorgeous, and he's something that I produced. So hopefully his nice placidness, that's also why I kept him too, because he's amazingly nice. He's not so nice to the girls, but
Yeah.
he's so nice to me, though. He's a dud, and I don't want him to be a dud, so I've left him alone. Where it's like, oh, you're just the one, you just want to play. Come on,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. So
Man,
every time I open the cage, he's like, oh, I'm ready.
Yeah. Just time to come out and have a nice stroll.
Now it has to be in your mind, based off the animals you already keep, how you see things put together, not only in your own collection but at work. The doing the sulfurs is a big commitment. It's a large amount of area
yes.
that you'll. So you got. I imagine at some point the love has to, or the desire to work with those animals has to outweigh the
Expense.
the expense, the size, because for
Commitment.
me.
Basically full commitment.
Yeah.
Right. I could think of some of these spaces, especially like the walk-in little enclosures that I have. I can't deny that, man, I could set up a lot of dwarf monitors in that same amount of space.
Yeah, I did the
Yep.
same
Yeah.
thing. Like, if I got rid of these, I can have every dwarf monitor I want.
Yeah.
but,
Right.
but I'm tapped out on space, and so I stick with my stuff too, because I
Yeah.
love the mangroves a lot, and the Kimberleys are a dream species for me. Other than the sulfurs and what when the melanis and stuff, are there like dream stuff that you would want to keep, or you see stuff that come in, you're like, oh.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, as far as monitors go, Zagorum. Verana Zagorum that's kind of my
Oh,
golden chalice.
okay.
I would love to see a couple of those. The opportunity to work with them would be amazing.
All right, can you explain to people what Zagorum is?
It's almost like the silver streak I don't even know necessarily call it a tree monitor. It's not a tree monitor, but it's similar in size. Um, but it's a really unique looking animal that I can't really compare to too much else out there that you see more commonly in the industry. They're just a really
Man.
funky, beautiful animal.
Yeah.
I believe they come from Halmahera. I believe they're from the Halmahera Islands.
I think some of these islands over in that area are just, there's so much to even, well, I mean, because technically we can still now get some of these animals in over here, but you know, I see some of the Australian guys out there field herping, and they're posting pictures of
Their backyard?
undescribed kind of dwarf to mid-sized monitors sometimes, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know, I
Oh
have
yeah,
to
the
imagine that
remoteness.
in them.
Yeah,
Right.
the remoteness of some of those islands and location. I mean, you could probably go there if you have a good head on your shoulders. You could probably go there and discover a handful of new species every single time you go out there.
I believe it, and I want to go.
I mean, that's pretty
You
much how Cam Templeton and the Barkers ended up doing it.
Yeah.
They just flew out there, poked around, and then bang, just like that, new scrub python, bang, new popwood or new carpet python. It was amazing.
I've been selling a vacation to the missus about Roddy Island, Roti Island, because I want to go over there and look at the peacock monitors for myself.
I love peacocks.
Right, but I want to also see just, you know, and there's a really nice resort that some of the surfers from around the world have a lot to do with out there that, you know, I show her pictures of. She's like, yeah, I think I could do that with you, you know. So that's how I'm selling this. And but you know, to go over the island from the coast to getting inland and just seeing, you know, what actually is on there and
You know,
the variability between some of these.
I'm trying to picture how you would herp the. I mean, you would have to basically have like eyes like, wow. I mean, you'd have to notice the smallest movement on a twig or a log. And I mean, I hope it's basking where it's in plain view. But picture seeing that in the wild over there. That's
a needle in a haystack.
Some
Here's
skill.
my plan, okay? I put some thought into this. I'll share it with you guys. So, because of some of the settlers over there, I believe one of the common languages that a lot of people speak is Portuguese. So I got a buddy who's fluent, and if he's not, he better brush up. And I'm trying to sell him on this idea too. And so it's tapping the locals that are already there day in and day out, you know, across the island, and seeing what they see, because they're there all the time. They know what's around when, and
how to hunt them.
Right. And just, you know, we all get this fantasy sometimes about going into the jungle, and you hear all the jungle sounds, and then you find something, this picturesque animal sitting on a tree somewhere. And sometimes the truth is they live in the shack behind the house, you know, behind where they're keeping the chickens. And that's just the truth of things.
It's staged. The picture was staged.
Right. They'll go pick up the trash can, and they're hiding under the trash can, something like that. It's just, it's kind of funny how that all works. But
it's funny that you mentioned that, because a guy that does a rodent room at work actually just got back from a vacation to Aruba. And while he was down there, he was looking for this very specific species of rattlesnake. He was like going through a national park with a ranger every other day, couldn't find it. And then one day he got a call from that ranger. Somebody had 4 of them in their backyard.
Right.
And the ranger was coming to remove them. So he tagged along for the ride and got some awesome photos of it. But he was like, yeah, went to these remote locations, never saw a thing. This guy had 4 of them living under his shed.
Right.
It's crazy. It's like, all right, I have the same grasshopper story. I was basically we're looking for them, and we went up like hills and through the Mojave, right? And then we couldn't find too much. And then we looked on iNaturalist to find more locations, and these other locations were all in people's backyards. Like, I was like, yo, I can't do this. I can't go to his backyard.
Go get yourself a suit and tie and start knocking on some doors.
Yeah, I sell insurance. I'm from Geico. I'm from Geico. No, but yeah.
Oh man, start giving free pest inspections. That's the way.
those Now, all right. So what's your most hectic situation at work, like ever.
Ever?
I mean, I guess monitor related
Ooh.
or just like, yeah.
So, oof.
I mean, it
So
doesn't have to be like bad. It just, well, it's crazy, like, crazier.
Well, there
Or
was one. This one didn't have to do with the monitor, but yesterday actually, I was taking a picture of one of the large Susties, and this one's notorious for just having a horrible temperament. He's just got a bad attitude about him. So I was messing with him, probably like 15 minutes, and he sort of tired himself out. And I picked him up, taking some pictures of him in the hall. I threw it up on the story. And the guy that was helping me tire him out made a little remark like, "Oh yeah, you must have tired him out." And I said, "Yeah, but he's been resting for a minute. I think he's got some energy back." And it whipped around and grabbed just to the right of a very important part on a man, and just started chewing its way up the shorts. It was like that Crocodile Hunter episode where Steve's holding the mamba out in front of him. He's like, "If this snake was 6 inches longer, or I was an inch shorter, I'd be bit right now." I had just enough of the snake to hold it out and stop it from chewing its way up. I was like, "Oh my god, this was almost horrible." And this is like a 10.5 foot Amazon puffing snake, fighting with a vengeance. That was one of the few moments I've had working with animals where I was like, "Oh crap, this
where
could
they
end very
intentionally
badly."
try to bite your body part. They intentionally try to bite something on you. Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
You
I was
meant to do that.
Oh yeah. That was pure malice. It was not a nice snake.
Man. What about with monitors? Anything off the top of your head you can think of that
I mean, because he has the coolest stuff, but I mean, what about like the close calls or something like that,
Yeah, so the toughest one I saw, we had this monitor, she's one of the originals, her name is Wretched. She's got a bit of a temperament about her. She's not, at the end of the day, she's not an awful lizard. She has a bit of beef with me for some reason. I don't know why. But she's just a really big normal water monitor. And we decided to try and breed her. So we threw our big male black dragon in there. He's got some Sumatran blood in him. So he's like just shy of 7 foot. And she's about 6.5. And so I'm sitting there watching, and, they're kind of circling each other. We're like, okay, this isn't, it's not a bad thing. And all of a sudden they start wrestling. And Rob's in the cage, and Rob had to jump up onto the basking platform to get out of the way. And they're wrestling just like the Komodo dragons would out in the wild. And we're just standing there like, what do we do? How do we get this apart? This is not supposed to be happening between a boy and a girl.
Yeah. And Rob's in the cage the whole time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we gave him like a little stick to kind of keep him at bay from himself. But yeah, Rob was caught in the middle of it. Me and Donnie are sitting there like, oh my God, this is so cool. But at the same time, I wonder if this is going to go south.
Yeah, no kidding.
I had something similar when I was introducing my first pair ever, and someone told me to just do it in mutual zoning, right? And so I did it in a cage that they didn't know. And they basically just reared up, and they they kind of fell on top of each other instead of actually like being in ritual combat. They were more so just leaning against each other, kind of like making a triangle, right? And then one kind of reached over to bite the other one's arm, and I just shoved a broomstick right in between them, just like the brush part, so it doesn't really hurt them, and just just kind of whacking them and making sure that they're not ripping each other's arm. But man, like the actual combat ritual, it's like a superhero move when they jump up,
Oh, it's a spectacle to behold. It's something that you see it on TV and you're like, wow, that's cool. But when you see it in person, it's indescribable.
Yeah, the connect too. But I don't get that too often at all. No, I rarely ever have males like jousting or wrestling at all. I really wish I could or have the space, but man, I just don't want anybody to bite each other. So
that's still to this day the only time I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Out of all the thousands of baby monitors I produced, the hundreds of pairings, that's still the only time I've ever seen that was with that boy and that girl in that one instance.
Interesting. Man. See, I want to see some of this stuff. I actually threw 2 male sand monitors together trying to see some action. Yep. There was a little bit of huffing up. There's a little bit of tongue flicking, smelling each other. And then since I'm working in the room, they weren't really doing anything but that, sizing each other up. So after a while, I went back to work because I can hear if anything's going to, starts wrestling in there. Nope. I come back and they're just laying on top of each other, doing their thing. I was like, man, come on, guys. I wanted to see that classic wrestle going on. I thought there'd be more to it. And they're like, I guess we're doing this now, roommates. So Yeah, man, I don't have any of those cool behavioral. I got bit by an Aki once. I mean,
Yo, you're lucky not to get bit by your blue trees. That's a tough
Oh.
bite. From imported blue trees, that's
Yep.
a hard
yeah, I've seen those teeth on them, and
It hurts. It hurts.
yeah, they actually, it's funny. They're the longest monitors I have. They're by far longer than the sand monitors if you actually stretch them out. It's just they're so deceptive with their body frame and those tails
Yeah.
that curl. But yeah, they got some serious teeth on them. There's those, and I think the animal I'm most afraid of in the whole collection is this like old, worn and torn mainland Timor monitor type of animal. In fact, the truth is I don't really know what it is because it's large. It doesn't look like any of the other things.
The pattern's kind of distorted now, right? Where it's faded off a little bit.
Well, yeah, and so but it's got a ton of color. It's just like it's
Okay.
like this. The body is just like gold. It's actually
Oh.
really, really pretty. But I'm pretty sure he's blind in one eye, and because I can dangle things on one side of its face and nothing. You dangle on the other side of its face. It's tongue flicking, but then you get the reaction. So I'm kind of wondering if it's blind on that side. But the way it attacks food is just it has this whole like
It's
head
because
whip,
it's blind.
yeah, laceration. I mean, I can even feed rodents to the large monitors, and
Yeah, I'm not feeling his head does this, right? His head's like this and this and this. Like he's really quick.
yeah, it's just this quick
Yeah.
whip and shred where he's left a couple tails on the tongs still. It's so quick, and I'm like, man, I don't want to get bit by this 2-foot monitor.
Yeah, it's amazing when they lose their vision because we have an older sulfur that developed some cataracts, and watching how his feeding response changed, it was scary and stunning at the same time. Like, he's just so much more
Yeah.
violent and powerful.
Yeah,
It just blows you away. It's like ooh.
and anything that touches the very front muzzle, it's getting snapped at.
Yes.
Anything. Yeah,
That's what
so-
I have to. It's a snap first too, so I try to
Yeah.
be careful with him because he'll ask the questions later, and I don't want to lose some finger meat in the process.
It's like always the one you never expect to get you in the finger, and then you just bleed and bleed.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah.
I've seen. Well, I haven't been bit by the peacocks yet. I watched my buddy get bit pretty good by one, but sometimes the dwarf monitors. I don't really see it in the large monitors, but the dwarf monitors have that whole bulldog aspect to them. Maybe Jake, maybe you've seen it with the larger guys where they just bite and they hold on, and then they like look at you, and they close their eyes and bite down again a little harder.
I fortunately have not seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about because I've had that happen to me with an Aki before. I really did not like that. But
They also mean that by two. They're
Oh yeah,
like,
they
yeah.
look at you like 3-4
Yeah,
times.
it-
like,
there's
That's
intent
me.
behind it. They mean it.
let me
Yeah,
just put
I
some
haven't
more
seen
jaw
that-
pressure.
Yeah, I haven't seen that too much in the water monitors. I mean, every once in a while you'll get it with a young individual,
yeah.
but at that point it's still not even like a 4-month-old animal. It's just a baby that's still just really scared. But they look
Yeah.
at you like they're trying. They're trying to hurt you in the grand scheme of things.
Leave me alone. Man, so we're talking about a bunch of things here, but what is and we talked about a few things specific to what you do, but take us through maybe your day from the time you get to work with the monitors to go through the whole routine of what you're running around and doing.
Yeah, so most of it, all in all, taking care of the entire monitor collection very rarely takes me more than half a day, which is what
Nice.
another thing that I really, really like about the monitors is the speed and the efficiency that you can have actually doing it.
Half a day is still 12 hours, Alan.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, you get in. First thing I do, obviously, just check all your light fixtures. I don't know if this is unique to the Salvatore, but it seems to be unique mostly to them, is actually playing with the light bulbs and the light fixtures. You never know what's going to be completely shattered or unscrewed or
Oh,
destroyed.
dude,
That's just, yeah.
I got guys that will grab the bulb and just rip it.
Oh, yeah,
Like-
they'll swing around on it and play on it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. You're like, what are you doing?
This is not a gym.
In
Yeah, so
fact,
step
after
one is
this, I got to
focusing
go
that.
hook lights back up because I popped in real quick to look at them, and sure enough, now it's hot here today. It's like 90 degrees outside, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, somebody was swinging from some lights earlier, so I got to go hook those things back up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
luckily we all use similar bulbs that don't get too crazy blistering hot, and
Yes.
so you can kind of touch them and grip them a little bit, and so
Yeah,
yeah.
that is the key to working with Brandons is finding the specific bulb that actually works. Because if it's too hot, it'll burn the animal. Not hot enough, you deal with a whole host of health issues down the line.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, all right, what do you we're more so of one or two bulbs, three bulbs at usage, and we kind of just use like 45, 60 watt bulbs. What are you guys cranking in a, I think you guys are 12-foot tall enclosures or something like that, or something, where they're quite big, where it's like a small room.
Yeah, so I like to use the 250s personally. The 250 watts really are the key, and part of that is also being able to mount them at a height or at least in the position where the lizard can't physically contact it.
Okay.
That's one of the most important parts of being able to utilize a 250 successfully.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, you got to get creative with it sometimes, like in the croc monitor enclosures that we have. Obviously, crocs are pretty agile little creatures that can get up there.
Oh man.
But yeah, finding the way to properly mount that 250, that really seems to have a lot of success. So much so that you don't even necessarily have to leave the basking spot on the entire time, or you can almost set it to a timer where it's activated for only a couple hours here and there, and they'll utilize it for that little, whatever it is, 45 to 30-minute span, and then be completely done with it and just kind of go about their day.
Yeah. Okay. And for the listeners out there, for just to reiterate, that was using a 250 that the animal can't get to. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they cannot touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the smaller closures, I like to use the 80 watts.
Yeah. Okay. That's where most of us are at too. 75, 60 watt bulbs ish.
All right. So after the light bulb check, run around, see what mischief the monitor's been up to. What comes next?
I like to start off with the babies just because I like to be able to get that secondary water change in toward the end of the day after a feeding. So just go through, do the baby's waters, have that little interaction and time period with them. Beyond that, like I said, we kind of got what I call the phase 1 and phase 2 cages. Phase 1 still needs to get manually changed and vacuumed out. Phase 2 is actually right on the actual drain line in the facility. So for that, just pull the plugs, let them drain out while you vacuum out the old waters, and then you just kind of go through and fill them up while playing with the individuals or feeding, whatever it is you got to do it that day. Then beyond that, go through, give insects to the smaller guys, anything from, hatchling all the way up to like 2.5 foot or so. Generally, I'll be feeding roaches or some sort of insect too.
Yeah.
And beyond that, pretty much after that, it's going to be snakes. My ultrasounding days, I like to make sure I'm not feeding on those, obviously, to get a nice clear image.
All right. So, quick question on your not to go off on a tangent, but your ultrasounding, man, is it that good investment to buy the ones that like let's say like breeder circle cells or something like that? I'm trying to get where it seems like for me reading my animals just by physical signs aren't working, because they're either hiding too much or I'm just not there with as far as reading the actual signs. And either you fed them or there's a body distortion or that weird angle that makes them look fat and then all of a sudden they're not again, right? But I mean, getting to the ultrasounding, I mean, is it worth it? Like, because
100% worth it. At least in the beginning. I have probably 5 or 6 girls, actually probably around 8 or 9 girls right now that I no longer need the ultrasound for, just because I know how they are cycling. Okay. I just kind of got that internal timer, and using the records that I keep on them, I know when to pair them up, and when I can get away with it. But anytime we get a new animal in there, the ultrasound is just, it's beyond a crucial necessity for it, especially to have successful breedings and pairings.
You're looking for follicles near which organ again?
Not necessarily even near an organ. I mean, generally it's going to be, I like to put the ultrasound probe a couple inches above the back leg.
Okay.
And then slightly below like where the rib cage would be. And generally, once you angle up in there, I mean, if you're poking around and you're not seeing follicles, you should see the liver, typically a
Okay.
kidney, and then you can generally see inside of the large intestine as well. That's why I like to keep the feeding to a minimum around the time I'm going to be doing any type of ultrasound read.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, there are little beads that you're looking for in there that are small little dots, or I'm sorry, what are you looking for exactly as well?
So it's going to be a very uniform circle shape. So one of the big mistakes you're going to make early on is you're going to kind of look for any little dark blob that you can kind of find or see. A lot of times you're going to mistake that for it's either going to be the liver or fecal matter. And
Yeah.
generally that's going to be somewhere between the 17 millimeter range to like 23, 24, at least in the case of Verena Salvatore. While the actual follicles themselves, it's going to depend on where they are in their cycle. It could be anywhere from like 7 or 8. At that point, they're very, very minuscule. They're pretty difficult to see. It's going to look like little
Millimeters.
speckles. Yes, that's correct. Yep,
Millimeters.
millimeters. And then once you get them up to like that 17 or so, that's when you're going to be able to see them a little bit more clearly. It's going to look like actual little BBs on the screen. And then all the way
Yeah.
up to 30 is going to look like somebody put a ping pong ball in there pretty much.
Wow.
I wonder if have you had any experience doing it on dwarf monitors? Do you think that would even show up?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we just don't have any actual breeding pairs to really try that out with. But I've actually thought about doing that on my jeweled Lacerdas,
Yeah.
just because I'm not entirely sure where those are right now. I only got them a week and a half or so ago or so.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear how that works out. If you do try it, let me know.
Man, I'm actually thinking about this could be a game changer for me because I don't have to. I always say, hey, I like going to the vet because even if they don't know what's going on, they can do the stuff for me, like get X-rays and things like that, right? And
Yep.
basically give me the answer. But if I can do that stuff at home, basically saves me a couple $100 every time. So
Exactly.
it might be worth it because I have so many animals, and I take a vet visit, easily spend a few $100 sometimes, something like that, and I do it for how many different animals when either I think they're ready or even after they've laid, and I check them to see if they have more eggs. Right,
Yep.
that's the only time I really go to the vet for the girls, other than like wounds or something like that I can't heal and I need medicine for. But man, this can be a game changer for me if I learn how to read it well enough on the screen. And that's easy enough to pick up after time. Maybe not right away,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
in time.
there was a running joke for a long time. I'm the worst ultrasounder in history. I found squares inside of lizards. Like I could find things that should have never existed, but even I can find stuff now. So I'm sure you'll be able to.
And they're all generally within the same spot, within underneath the rib area and back between the liver and the kidney, right?
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you're never going to find just a single one. As soon as you find one, you're going to find them all.
All right. Nice.
And then it's just
Yo,
a matter of adjusting the positioning to get that one clear image that you can actually freeze and then read and kind of gather your information from there.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, wow, that a big ass light bulb just lit up in my head, like I'm just mind blown because I know people were doing it with snakes, and I just didn't know that you guys were doing it with monitors like that. And I mean, just on how it you kind of make it work for you in a way where I don't have to just guess, I can now figure out in depthly and for sure. And okay, I'm going to introduce them at this time. Hopefully it's the right move. And because I think I'm introducing them when they're not not going through that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a fight or they're just off, so
Yeah, having that ultrasound to read, it'll tell you everything you need to know about that. Because if the follicle size is incorrect, like you said, that's 9 times out of 10 why that fight occurs in the first place. And you also kind of pick up on various females, how they tend to behave. I have some girls that are perfectly fine with a male being introduced when they are still really, really small, like the beginning phases of their cycling. I have others that would try and kill anything that goes near them until they're like right at that peak where they should, in theory, be ovulating like a week later. And that's when you have to introduce the male.
And, I'm trying to understand like the cycling thing, because before I used to just think it's like the one go as soon as they, go through vitellogen or that part of vitellogenesis and, developing the whole ovum stuff. Right. And is that those are the beginning stages. Right. And so, I used to just think, all right, that's just the one period, but man, they can that cycle is a very long period. Yeah, or
Yeah,
is
so
that
the
more small?
Salvatore we actually breed about 4 times a year. So it goes essentially one cycle is 3 months long.
Wow.
At that,
See,
yep,
now I used to just think, okay, the one cycle is no, it's just the one egg laying episode, and then it's
exactly.
done, right? But
Yeah,
it's long.
yep. And
Okay,
that's one that I think if you start doing that as far as the Indicus go, you'll
yeah.
probably be the one breaking ground on it. Because
I
what's
mean,
really
I'm at
funky when it
60
comes to
days.
monitors is we're kind of figuring out how quickly some species breed and how much longer it takes to breed others. Like I know
Man,
Varanus coming eye, people have only gotten them to breed for like a 6 month span, but
yeah.
they'll lay like every 30 to 45 days, which is
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
stunning
So
to me.
these indicus are slow growers. Like they don't explode like black throats or Salvatore's kind of overnight, where you feed them a bunch and they're big in a year, right?
Yeah.
These guys in a year, they're still like your forearm length,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they're not really that big in a year. But so and as far as that whole get them ready in a year thing, I tried, and it just makes them fatty.
Yeah.
They do grow a little faster, but not in any like rapid rate where they're ready to breed, but they're not even all ready. The males 15, 18 months, 24 months to get going, right? Fully drop all that stuff like that and really be in gear. And the girls 2 to 3 years minimum.
Yep.
And whether she's laying and it's comfortable, like it's not her, it's like her struggling to push out all these eggs, it's like actually okay, you're ready, and yeah, I actually wait, man. I tell people to take their time because some people are like, oh, I want success in a year, or what people generalize in monitors is fast breeding if you can get it within a year sometimes, like I
Yeah.
think Salvatores can go almost fast with almost their first year, right? Something like that.
Reproductively, yeah, reproductively, yes, but I mean, there really is no shortcut when it comes to it. It's almost like I like to describe it as breeding boas. You can get a boa up to size where it should, in
Yeah.
theory, be able to produce viable offspring, but
Right.
internally it's just not ready. I've seen monitors
Yeah.
get the size where they're throwing slugs at the end of about, what was it, 14, 15 months? But just
Yeah.
physically, it's not big enough to pass a viable egg yet. You don't want to run that risk. And I've seen people do it, unfortunately.
That's smart.
And
That's
they
really
get egg bound, the egg bursts inside of them, and it just kills this poor animal that if you just waited another 4 or 5 months for it to actually pack on the size, would have been
Yeah.
an incredibly successful animal.
And that's why I no longer push my animals anymore. Like my Kimberleys waited 18 2 years almost.
Yep.
My Indicus, even if I push them, they won't go until 2-3 years. So it's like, all right, you guys are just a little different. We got to be a little bit more patient with you, and even at 3 years old, let's picture 4 or 5 years old is when they're at their prime.
Yep.
So give yourself how many years to try, and it's like it's not just going to take off within the year. And a lot of people give up after 14 18 months, and it's like, oh, you don't see success or you don't see results. I mean, bro, you're gonna have to learn for a lot longer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's across the board when it comes to actually the hobby itself. It's just patience. Patience is key.
Yeah, I've noticed in the Indo dwarfs, they seem like they're growing a lot slower. They're a lot more shy too. And maybe going back to some of the stuff we said as far as them coming from Indo, maybe that has a lot to do with it. Where down the line, like some of the Ackies, they will go and
8 months,
yeah,
9 months.
yeah,
Yep.
8 months.
Yeah.
I wonder if that plays into it as well. But yeah, for the most part, it seems like some of these Indo animals are actually taking their sweet time growing, or even eating. They don't eat like the rest of the animals.
No, they just don't pound. I can easily feed my baby mangroves a couple times a week, 3 times a week, and they're perfectly fine. It's like,
Yeah.
A lot of
How
that
do
seems
you-
to come down to just where the animals are from naturally. The animals
Yeah.
that have a lot more competition tend to be much faster growing, a lot more successful reproductively, and just faster, healthier animals all around. Oh, well, not necessarily healthier, but larger animals all around. Whereas opposed to
Yeah,
animals with a little bit more limited resources, just kind of they take their sweet time because there's no
Right.
rush.
Right.
Now, what do you guys feed a bunch of the babies? Like, how do you guys get that prepped for the day? I mean, I guess is this one of your next things after you do the babies in the morning is feed them a ton. That's a lot
Yeah.
of food.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of insects. I will advocate for an insect-based diet all day, every day of the week. Crickets and
Okay.
roaches.
Nice. So you just toss them in a dish or toss them in the cage for them, right?
Yeah, Tim. So crickets, dust them with calcium, throw them in. Roaches, we just take a deli cup, cut out the top so it still has a little bit of a lip, fill it up with the roaches and some calcium powder, and they go to town on those. They absolutely love them.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, why is that you you're talking about the smaller monitors? I'm assuming.
Yep.
As far as insect. Now,
Yes.
why is that you stick to mainly an insect-based diet with it?
So in my experience, it really just produces a healthier animal all around. Being a breeding facility, we obviously want to get the animals the size to breed them, but make sure it's done in a healthy fashion.
Yeah.
I've seen the animals that are fed with the whole food items and pinkies, rat pinks, quail chicks, you name it, right off the bat. And
Not another variation, right?
yeah, they do grow, but they're getting fatter along the way too. Like eventually you get like a 2 or 3 foot lizard, but it doesn't look like a healthy 2 or 3 foot lizard. It looks like this little pudgy, chunky kind of slug. When you feed them
Yeah.
roaches and insects every day, or at least as the bulk of the diet, you get this 2 or 3 foot lizard, sometimes even a little bit quicker, but it looks healthy. It acts healthy. It's a very streamlined animal. It's robust. It's fast. It's got a little bit more of a glint in its eye, seemingly. They just seem to be more successful all in all down the line.
They're probably chasing stuff and hunting stuff, which also gives them like the exercise that some
Yep.
require. Because for me, it sucks that I just tongue feed all the time and bowl target feed. I wish I could just throw a bunch of stuff in the cage, but sadly I don't. And I think my animals end up a little pudgier than normal. Like if I were to feed them just chicks, mice, and that's it, right? If I didn't do crustaceans, they basically end up really pudgy, especially even after a season. They're still fat, and I'm like, wow, okay, so I have to switch it up. And so I might not be using insects, but I use water bugs, which are shrimp and crawfish and crab, stuff like that. So that's been my alternative. Insects, I can't just get away with using crickets and roaches for my guys, so I have to alternatively use stuff. Yeah.
I think the other aspect too of insects that a lot of people don't focus in on enough is your ability to gut load them. I think that really helps the monitor's development along the line too, because when I gut load, I'm using something different every single time. The only constant is pretty much just going to be some type of dried dog food in there for them to chew on, but every day it's a brand new vegetable, a brand new fruit, something that they didn't get in their diet even the previous week. So I think that added bit of nutrients and whatnot, it's something that helps them grow a little bit faster. It gives them a more complete, healthy diet.
Very good. And what would you? I think I've watched a few videos where you guys are doing multiple species of roach. But what would you say maybe your go-to species of roaches?
Unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, lobster roaches.
Yeah,
I can't stand lobster roaches, but yeah, they're truly invaluable. They can climb anything. It really seems to stimulate the young guys because they'll just chase them around all day, every day. They can climb out of anything. They're very prolific, fast breeders. So you don't have to worry so much about decimating a colony.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as full-grown adults, so I can inch. What was that?
Yeah.
I was just saying I don't want to make that jump to like the lobsters and the red roaches for that same fear. They're just.
Oh yeah, no, I will never touch a red runner in my life.
They live in the back. They live in my backyard. The red runners, they live in the cracks. They come out at nighttime. I'm just like, I've seen you like in the pet stores, dude. Like, come on.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I see people advertise. I'm like, that's a roach I step on. I don't want those, And I used to have lobster roaches at one point too, and they are exactly like what you said, very prolific and everything. And man, if you can have a bin inside a bin and it's safe, or like something where they're not gonna get out, and they're less bad, they're less as crazy than the red runners for sure. Like if they get out, they're probably gonna die. But the red runners, man, all they need is a little moisture, a little warm spot. They're set to go, and that's like behind your refrigerator or whatever. It's like.
Yeah, we find them here in New England too. I still remember the first time I ever saw one. I was in high school and I was out collecting some isopods with my zoology teacher. And I slipped over a rock and there was a red runner, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh man, this is a problem that reptile people have. We just let these go. That's why
Yeah.
they're everywhere. Yeah.
Yep.
they're here too. Definitely. On that note, it's funny. I've also seen the pet store crickets that we get now, the banded crickets.
Yeah.
Um,
They're also
it,
native to here.
right, but it's hard to find a regular like black cricket like I used to grow up with. You don't hear them in the
Yeah.
house anymore.
Oh,
It's
really? That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
like they're wiped out. So I have to go up Mount. Well, there's this mountain here called Mount Baldy, and it's the for me, in my opinion, it's this one of the safest mountains here because all the other ones around here are so rugged, right?
Yeah.
As far as like a major mountain, so um, if I go up this place and I lift up some cracks and stuff, I actually find these big black crickets,
Yeah.
and they do really well. I've actually been able to hatch some out, but it's just they smell so bad. Yeah, well, what they desire to eat and how hot and humid they need to keep, that's just a nasty odor itself. It's like a
Yeah. That's why I've become a
revolving.
huge advocate for roaches. It's just the cricket
Yeah.
smell in general. Huge red.
Yeah. I still get the shipments of crickets in because they are easy, and then
Yes.
gut load them and then give them to the animals. But man, if I could get off my butt and really get some different things going besides the roaches that I got going, that'd be a lot more beneficial. Because it's the same thing.
The bin in a bin method or some large bin, or more so like if you can design a trap door cage for the lobster roaches, that'd be great. But
Yes.
if it's like loose top, pop it's open, no, they're gonna get out of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, make it just think smarter than them, or kind of have it where you can just open a latch, do what you need to do, get in and out with the tube. They're pretty easy to manipulate.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very. I don't know if they're technically classified as an arboreal, but we love using them as arboreal feeders as well for the toe case. They love to climb around. So they, like you said, they are pretty easy to manipulate when you just give them something to climb up and explore.
And then cover them in calcium dust, and they're just like, oh, I'm dying, or they're like stunned or something. Then they're just not as agile. They're all covered in this stuff. They're trying to get it off of them, and
Yeah, it throws
So
them off a
they're
little bit.
it throws them off a bunch.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, it's lobster roaches are super fast. You'll have a colony in like a few months.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll eat anything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they'll skin, like you just leave a orange in there, and they'll just eat it and skin all of it, and just leave you the whole skin, and that's it, man.
And they do
might
it
have-
half the time that other species do it, like dubias, orange heads.
Right.
Cut an orange in half, leave it in there for a couple of days, they'll be fine. Lobsters, it's like 2 hours and it's gone.
Yeah,
I might have to do those because man, I'm getting eaten out of house and home with these dubia.
yeah. Just do it smart where you use the petroleum jelly well. You have a smart bin, and man, it's slap a heat pad on the side of it, or keep it on top of a cage that's hot, and feed them scraps. Like you can just give them scraps, dude.
Yeah.
And
They'll do just fine with it. The only thing you really got to do to kind of contain them, just that thicker layer of petroleum. If you do a really thick layer of Vaseline, it kind of keeps them at bay. But having a free range toke certainly helps.
I've thought about that too, man. It is spider season right now, and I go in there and I have a broom because I basically walk with a broom in front of me because it's cobweb. Yeah, every morning I go over there and there's new cobwebs, and the funny thing is I actually can feel the difference now between which webs I walk through, and when I hit that web that feels more like a tripwire, I'm looking for, do I got a black widow crawling up my ankle or something? Because their webs are a little stronger, a little thicker. But yeah, it's like, that Charlotte's Web when all the babies fly off at the end. That's basically what I'm walking into every day. Even right now, when we started the podcast, I'm seeing something like crawl down from my eyebrow. It's a little baby spider that got in my hair somewhere. Or something. I'm watching this thing.
wow. Nice,
But let's we talked about the light bulbs you guys use. We talked about what you care for over there. Some of the species that are your daily routine kind of. Real quick on the daily routine though, you mentioned insect feeding, but what about for the larger animals that you're feeding meat to, rodents, whatnot? what
Those
is
drumsticks.
right?
Yeah.
Are you
Drumsticks.
have access to live fresh killed stuff? I'm assuming, but is there a
Yep.
process that you're like laying out things the day before so that when you get in the work the next morning, it's thawed out and ready to go?
Yeah, so typically I do it more based off of what the ultrasound reads tell me. So girls that are a little bit farther along in the cycling
Mm-hmm.
kind of dictate the amount that I feed and also what I feed. Certain monitors like to eat certain things. So if I know I have a couple girls that prefer quail, I'll make sure to go out and thaw out predominantly chicken chicks, quail chicks, or full grown quail, stuff like that. If I know it's some of the less picky animals, I'll choose something like guinea pigs or like D-grade rats, something that we'll have an excess of, thaw them out, and then go through and feed at least twice a week, usually 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
All
Okay.
right.
And
Hey,
yeah, just make sure you supplement. That's the key.
Yeah.
I had a question. Okay.
Yep.
Are you able to figure out why some clutches come out only partially fertile, or why there's duds, and then how come there's those duds that have the orange shape, or just regular shelled duds?
Jake only gets fertile clutches, man. It's
Yeah, and that's true. I can't
Yeah.
remember the last time I got a slug. Actually, it all comes down to feeding. Yeah.
I hate you.
Yeah, just
Whoa.
feed. If you got a nice
So
animal that has a good, healthy fat reserve to it, you really shouldn't have any reason to not have a slug.
Shoot,
I mean, the
actually
only time
have-
that I really get infertiles is when it's a lizard's second or third time breeding. When they're at that
Yeah.
point where, follicle-wise, they'll develop 10, 11, 12, but there's only enough viable sperm or enough energy for them to really actually fertilize 6 to 8. And then the extra
Yeah.
4, they'll kind of just pop out as slugs that aren't fully developed. But beyond that, it's very, very rare to actually get a slug.
kind of what I have going on. So I have 10 eggs laid, but 4 to 6 are fertile. And I mean, I'll accept the numbers, but I mean, shoot, it's just I wish for 100%, not just not just a few here and there. And I kind of would like to nip that in the bud. And man, I'll try to feed more. Shoot, these animals are already kind of chubby or big to begin with, so I don't know about feeding them anymore. Kind of feeding them to their brim until they turn their nose up,
Yep. And that's the other reason the ultrasound will really help you out down the line too, is when you see that the animals post ovulation or when their follicles are getting to that size where they're getting ready to ovulate, you can really key in and feed really heavily around those points. And that's what really seems to help me. Because when you feed heavy any chance you get, you eventually end up with just ultimately obese animals that you're going to shorten the lifespan of. But when you target those sort of crucial points, that really seems to help out.
Now, Jake, are you doing anything throughout the year too? As far as I know you keep pretty consistent temps for the animal, but as far as a cycle, so to speak, as far not the animal actually cycling, but a cycle that at the facility you go through to induce, kind of a known expectation of what these animals are going to do.
Not really for the water monitors, which it's pretty nice because naturally the environment that they're in changes very, very little from year to year, at least temperature wise. Obviously you got a monsoon season and the dry season, but even that's not really enough to sort of influence the breeding or the cycling of the lizards. I mean, we just kind of keep it pretty standard year round. And yeah, we get them to go 4 times a year pretty consistently without much of a hassle.
Very nice. Man, because I'm thinking, because I, with some of the dwarf monitors too, we're talking different species here, of course, and from different areas, but seems like I'll get this flyer clutch sometime in the winter that's usually infertile. Maybe a couple are fertile. And then the following first clutch in the spring, all fertile. The second clutch is usually pretty good. And if there's a third clutch, it might be 50-50. And then, maybe there's a surprise clutch here and there. But
they always tell me to look for the better or wait for the second clutch or the third clutch.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're just laying once every 6 months, bro. There's no second or third clutch.
But I wonder if there's a way, to clean that up.
My dwarf monitors spit out eggs like crazy. So
yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe I should have posed that as a question. What do you think, Jake?
Ah, I'm actually looking at my phone right now. Unfortunately, I'm on my last percent, so I'm
Oh,
hoping they'll teeter a little bit longer. I didn't want to jump in on what you guys were saying.
are
No
you?
worries.
Is it an iPhone where you got the your only option is like earphones or plugging it in?
I got a Pixel, but historically, I tried doing another podcast with
Uh
actually with Rob and Jeremy. It was a little experimental one, and it did not go well without the headphones. It was
huh.
it was pretty
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah, I get it, man. Okay, well, with that, anything else real quick before Jake loses his
Or I
ability
just
to
disappear.
yeah.
You know what, man? I think what you're able to do is open a light for me, but maybe a lot of the listeners that are within the breeding realm are trying to understand just how that whole aspect works, because you're able to have us go through all those little subtle stuff like the tongue flicking things, and
Yeah.
just yeah, all that is very important stuff that is, like, again, very subtle, not a lot of people paying attention to it, and I really appreciate you for coming on and doing it. I really don't know if I have anything else to ask you, but I mean, maybe if I had something personal, but more so of just like, I guess the last question I can ask would be, what type of ultrasound do you use, or what do you recommend? I just don't want to buy anyone off what people what people say. I want to get one that's reliable.
Yeah, I don't know the exact model that we use off the top of my head. But actually, I can get that exact model for you and message it to you. I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
advertise it on the podcast later, but I can
that's
definitely
okay.
get that info to you.
All right,
All right.
that'd be great. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, let's maybe wrap this up on that. And Jake, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having
Man,
me, guys.
we'd love to
Hey,
have you on in a little while and see what other new things are coming your way or what you guys got going on, new things that might come up, or to go into detail further about some of the stuff we've talked about. I'll be watching your personal page, for those Lacerdas, see what you got going on. But where can people find you?
If you want to follow me on Instagram, Real Jake from Snake Farm, probably going to be your best bet. I'm not too active on social media, unfortunately. But yeah, from time to time, I sometimes throw something up on Instagram.
Yeah, greatest
yeah,
name ever. I love it.
that's great. All right, man. Thank you. All right, have a good one, bro.
You too, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. And man, that was good stuff, Kai. There's a lot of information in there. Just the amount of knowledge that Jake gets just working with those animals day in, day out. And,
Yeah, man. I think for me, I still don't. Okay, I've hatched out plenty of monitors, but I still don't understand the step by step from ovulating and vitellogenesis, and I know the
right.
gravid part, but I don't know all that prior stuff. I'm waiting for Dave Kirshner to drop more episodes on the actual ovulating part. So, um, Croc Doc, we're patiently waiting for this very very important part. So, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, really, that's why I was talking and asking him those certain questions, just because it's very important for a lot of people that are trying to understand where they're trying to go with their animal. And just like I was mentioning, I thought, remember, like maybe last month I mentioned, I thought the cycle was just that one laying period, but no, it's a window
Right.
of, yeah,
That can
and
cover
there's
multiple.
multiple, yeah, and
I have
that's
those same things going on. I'm wondering the same thing because I swear some of my dwarf monitors, as soon as they lay, it looks like they're
they're
already
ready to go again in
rabid.
another couple of days. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that. So that girl that I told you that she's laid in the last few months a bunch of times, and a couple of them were not great, and a few of them have been good now. So, but I basically gave her a rest, and I essentially don't want to wear her out. But man, she looks so good. Like I could just do it again. But
Right.
I'm probably gonna give her another month or so. Try to push it out a little bit longer for any breeding activity. Just kind of get her. And what I did is I didn't have a ton of heat. I just gave her mild basking temperatures, just to gain weight a little bit slower, not basically go into full speed again, hot heated, and eating and digesting and all that stuff like that. I just wanted her kind of slowly gain weight back and do
Right.
things.
So let's think about it real quick on those along the line that it's a window that can cover multiple clutches. Then
Yeah, we'll have to get that
Maybe-
in a podcast one day.
yeah, maybe you can't shut it off. Maybe you can just
Yeah.
mess it up or do it right at the beginning, supporting that animal through the whole process.
Right.
And you just have to let it ride, you know.
Yeah.
Because if they're already producing those follicles,
There's might as well run them through it. Yeah, that's what people
Right.
tell me to do. Might as well exercise it fully and breed them and have it go through that way. At least it's a lot easier on the animal.
right?
But yeah, man, I'm not even 100% sure because shoot, if I'm at 4 or 5 clutches already from January till now, me pumping 5-6 clutches out of a girl is already that's teetering the line of dangerous and killing your animal. So
True.
I want to try, but it's not worth my animal, so I'm not going to try.
Gotcha.
And I'm happy with the eggs I got. And sometimes you might, even though I love pushing the thing for science and you know what I know about these animals and what I want to know more. I love this animal. I've grown it up for the last 3 years, and you know
Yeah.
I don't want to see it pass away. No, not just the whole pet factor now, but also the possible money factor too, because these animals do, you know, create some source of income, even if they are my loving pets. You know.
They gotta pay
Um,
rent. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. So
You
I
can't
mean,
live here for free.
I try to make it so it's a balance because you want to still have things make sense, you know, and losing a female is not gonna make sense.
No.
And finding a female, good luck. Good
Yeah.
luck. Yeah.
And I had on that note, I had buddy Kevin Baker, I think you know online, sent me a male Aki today because man, it's still hard for me. I'm looking at, you know, I got my definite males and it's easy to see they're a male, and I got my definite females, easy to see they're a female until one's not, and then you know it's I had that happen where I swore this animal was a male. It had some attributes about it that were very male, and yeah, I had some infertils from it just the other day. So whoops. And I already knew I was female heavy to begin with. So now I'm in
So
this
you need
position.
more males, huh?
Yeah, where I'm short on
Yeah.
males. So, but I mean, this guy's amazing looking animal. So I can't wait to get him in the mix. And Kevin, if you're listening, thank you. All right, man. Should we wrap it up here?
We close this one up, and I think we're able to cover quite a bit of juice and good meat for people to listen to.
Right.
You know, yeah, man. I'm glad we were able to bring them on and get I mean, sort of like a peek of what nerds like, almost in a way.
Right.
That's also a big, I think, an insider that people want. You know.
Right.
And I'm glad that he was able to come on and share some stuff with us.
Right. Absolutely. Those guys are doing great work. All right, Kai, I think we've skipped it the last couple times, but where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also a few other places. I'll mention those as well. My Instagram is big_lizard 103. My Facebook is just Kai Fan, Kai, and Fan, PHAN.
Kyle Pam.
Not that. You know, and now as far as I also have a YouTube, you can also follow me on, because sometimes I post videos of events and things like that. At Mangrove Mecca, that's Mangrove, and Mecca is MCC or MECCA. And yeah, I believe that's just about all the places to normally find me.
All
And you,
right.
man?
You find me coughing here in the podcast. That's what you can find me at origins_reptile on Instagram, and then Origins Reptile on Facebook. Of course, here on the podcast, we thank you all, everybody that's been listening. We thank you again for the feedback you've been giving us. It seems like people are pretty happy. I can't help but wonder, are they really happy, or are we just so starved for monitor content that, we take whatever we
It's
can get?
it's both. It's both. All right, so we love doing this. I mean, even from the get go, from just the scratch, and just asking each other, or kind of just seeing how things would flow, and now that they're actually flowing, and you guys are loving it. I mean, it just kind of it melts my heart a little bit, just
Yeah.
because you guys love it. I mean, that's just I never would have thought it'd be like that. I was like thinking, oh man, we got to have it scripted. I got to do this for people to like it, but really, it's just sheer facts and what you've experienced and what people can relate to. Um, yeah, man. So
Good stuff. All right. And again, everybody, please go ahead and go on to the Morelia Python Radio webpage. Check them out. There's a great selection of podcasts on there that you can scroll down through the bottom of, covering pretty much almost every aspect of reptiles in some degree. I'm sure in the future we might have more specific things going on, but there's plenty of good information, some great hosts, great stories. Go
a
ahead
little
and
bit
also,
for everybody. A little
yeah,
bit for everybody. Yeah.
check out their Patreon, check out their store on there. And then we also want to start including USARK. For anybody listening to that, if you don't know USARK, if you've been hiding under a rock, just type it in. It's USARK. They are basically fighting to protect our ability to keep animals. There's a lot going on right now that could threaten the animals we love to keep, threaten, all this information even coming out to you, because if we don't have them to talk about anymore, then it'll just be a figment of our imagination, something we did in the past. So please support in some way that you can. If you can sign up and give monthly, if you give a little bit here and there. Now, for those of you that are shipping animals, I know it's easy to tack on a lot of times a little extra on that shipping when you're sending stuff off. That'll be donated to USARK. Kai, I don't know if you've been keeping up on it. I was just made aware of some of the stuff going on as far as reintroducing Lacey Act, or trying to undo what was already decided as far as animals being able to cross state lines. So some of the government is trying to reintroduce verbiage to make it illegal to transport a lot of animals across state lines. So please go ahead, check out USARK, donate if you can. And other than that, anything else, Guy?
No, that's it, man.
All right. Till next time. We'll see you.
All right, you guys have a great one.